Arsenal's domestic cup campaign kicks off tomorrow night away at Port Vale, and with injuries at the front of everyone's mind again this season, today I'm going to be answering the question, who should start against Port Vale? Will we see Max Dowman early on? And will Victor Gyokeres get a rest up front? This is Arsenal Unfiltered. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to Arsenal Unfiltered, your 3 times a week dose of Arsenal coverage. With me, your host Mark, wherever you are in the world. I hope you are well and I hope you have recovered from the weekend's disappointment against Manchester City. I think a lot of people have been online expressing their frustrations, whether you think Arteta made a mistake at the start, or whether you think it was some of the performances, or whether you think we just didn't get it right. I don't know. There's lots of opinions out there. I think I sit somewhere in the middle. Of maybe we could have gone more attacking. Yes, of course we could have done that, but I understand why he didn't, and I feel quite relieved that he made the changes that he did and brought us back into the game to get a point. And I tend to think, we made a big error in the Erling Haaland goal, and we made a couple of errors in our final actions and creative moments where we didn't quite take advantage of the opportunities we created for ourselves. That's kind of where I land on it, but wherever you land on it, that's absolutely fine. Of course, the point at Manchester City means the Newcastle game coming up this weekend is absolutely massive. We can't really afford to not win that game and be so far behind Liverpool, because you've got to assume that they're going to win again. So we really need to make sure that we pick up 3 points away at St James's Park, something we've not done particularly regularly. If you want to, listen to my match preview of that, my instant reaction of that, and then of course the match review as well, make sure you've hit follow. I'll try that again. Make sure you hit follow wherever you get your podcasts from, because that means that you will get all of those episodes straight to your phone, straight to your iPad, wherever you listen to your podcasts on, and you won't miss a beat of the coverage around the Newcastle game. Today's episode, though, is all about the Port Vale match and who is going to play in this game, because I think it's important that some players get a rest, some players are allowed a night off, and of course it is quite exciting because hopefully we will see some new signings and some players that we haven't seen for a while, so I'm looking forward to that. I want to talk generally about the lineup and who I think should play, but I just want to talk before about the domestic cup campaigns, because it's very early in the Premier League season. It is very, very early. It's very early in the Champions League season, and they're the two they're the two tournaments that we're really, really after. But I have never held this opinion that I think a lot of fans hold, that it is Premier League and Champions League or bust. I think we live in a world at the moment that is far too ones and zeros, black and white around football, and you either are or you aren't. And I think it's got down to the point where Arsenal either are Premier League champions or aren't Premier League champions. And, you see the writing from football writers all the time. No excuses for Arsenal now. They've got to go and win the Premier League. They've got to go and win the Champions League. And it does make me laugh, because, if Arsenal go and get 92, 93 points and Liverpool end up on 94, we've had an incredible season, a record-breaking season for ourselves, and just been pipped at the post. Liverpool have lost a league title on 97 points before to Manchester City's 99. I don't think anyone regards that team as a failure of a team. So it's all about situations. It's all very, very dependent. And of course, there is a scenario where Arsenal don't go and win the Premier League or the Champions League this year, despite playing very well, despite performing at really, really high levels. And I think we have 4 opportunities to win a trophy this year. There are clearly 2 preferences, but I would like to see us, especially with the depth of squad that we've got now, take the League Cup and the FA Cup quite seriously. Of course, it's early rounds here. It's round 3. It's our first game in the tournament, and it's against Port Vale, so there's going to be a lot of rotation. But I guess generally, across the course of this campaign, I would like to see us go out there and start to try and win it, because ultimately, I think of these long periods of dominance that start for teams, and they often start with a League Cup, with an FA Cup, something like that. City got their very first trophy as an FA Cup. They got some luck along the way. They got some favourable draws. They got through, and that group then went on, with the Yaya Toures and Sergio Gyokeres to become a really dominant group. And I think I have made this point on here before, but if we can't topple Liverpool, Manchester City as we go toe to toe in the league title, if we can't topple the likes of PSG and Barcelona in the Champions League, the final ingredient might not be another player. It might not be a change of system in Arteta, but it might be a belief that we can win things, an attitude change, getting over the line in something. It might genuinely be that, and I do think a League Cup, an FA Cup, that could be the spark. That could be the moment where we go, okay, you know what, we are here to win things, and we go on and we win a Premier League or a Champions League. That's not to say we're not going to win any of those trophies this year, the Premier League or the Champions League, but I think it is really important that we win something this year, whether that is a major trophy or one of the two smaller trophies. That remains to be seen. Of course, we'd all prefer it to be the big two, but I do think we need to take this seriously. And as fans, we can't be thinking, let's just throw it away. We have to rotate. I get that. But we should also take it seriously enough, sprinkle players in here and there where required to try and win this. Okay, I'm 6 minutes in. I haven't even touched the topic of the episode. So let's get on to that. In goal, I think that is an easy one. Kepa's going to get his first start. I'm very, very certain of that. So that will be interesting. He is an extremely experienced goalkeeper. I really have no doubts at all. Of course, at right back in the Manchester City game, we were handed a boost. We were handed a boost with Ben White being on the bench. Whether Ben White is fit enough to start a game, I'm not so sure. The pace is not going to be as high against Port Vale. And it's really, really important that we get Ben White back and we don't rush him back. We've got to manage that appropriately. I can't see him doing 90 minutes in any way, shape or form. But I can see him starting because I don't think Arteta will want either Saliba or Gabriel to start, which means unless you start Timber at right back, which again, I just can't see. He's played so much football. I think Ben White will get around 60 minutes. With Mosquera starting at right centre-back, and then at about the 60th minute mark, I can totally see Mosquera moving along to the right-back spot and Saliba coming on at centre-back. He can pick up 30 minutes. He's had an injury. He's been rested for a little while. He was fit for the Athletic Club game, wasn't needed to be rushed back. So he's had a little bit of time off feet. So I think that's probably a big consideration there. So I think it will be White and Mosquera on that right-hand side of the defence, but with Saliba to come in for White and not Mosquera to right back. The big problem, I guess, is at left centre-back, where we were expecting, I think, Hincapie. He had some kind of physical discomfort and was excluded from the bench against Manchester City, which is, again, that's an issue because we really don't want Gabriel playing in this game. And we've seen, I think it was about 5-6 minutes of Hincapie off the bench so far. And for a player who we haven't yet, but are going to invest a lot of money in, that's not much football at all. So I would like to see him, whether he's fit or not, I don't know. I think if he's not fit, it's really, really likely that we see Calafiori go to left centre-back and Miles Lewis-Skelly play left-back, because I think he will be more concerned about keeping Gabriel fit than Calafiori. That's probably too harsh, actually, because Calafiori is playing very well and Calafiori is more injury-prone. But I think he probably thinks in a future game I might have an option to rotate Miles Lewis-Skelly in, and that's fair enough. So yeah, I think he will do that. I think Calafiori will play left centre-back. Is not as physically demanding a position, but if Hincapie's fit, Calafiori definitely out of the starting 11, and then Hincapie to play there. It could be a similar scenario, actually, where you see a Calafiori come on at about 60 minutes, just to manage the minutes, share the game between them. Another player who has recently returned from injury, who is a new signing, and I think we're all excited to see, is Christian Norgard. Again, we've only seen 5-6 minutes of him so far. I think that was when he came on as a sub against Athletic Club. Looked okay. But I want to see him in an Arsenal shirt now. Big debate when Norgard came in. Lots of people were a bit like, this is very disappointing. It's a real downgrade on Partey and Jorginho, which I didn't really buy into at the time. I thought he was a sensible signing and maybe a slightly different profile to Partey and Jorginho. So he has to come in for Zubimendi, in my opinion, because I like the profile. I think he's going to be perfect for this game. And you listen to Brentford fans talk about Christian Norgard, and they believe we've robbed them. They believe he is a very, very good Premier League level player. So I'm excited to see how he plays, and hopefully he can be fit enough to at least contribute a good number of minutes. The debate in recent weeks has been the pair in front of the kind of six, or the pair, the pairing of the double pivot with an attacking player or a not so attacking player, as people believe. I think Ethan Nwaneri must start this game at right 8, just to get him more minutes in that position, more exposure. I think he deserves it, of course. He's played in place of Ødegaard when Ødegaard's come off the bench, but when it's needed to be a start, it's been Mikel Merino. So I think that's quite interesting, actually. And it's been very, very targeted, the games that's happened in. Leeds, Nottingham Forest, Arteta feels comfortable using Nwaneri. Manchester City, Liverpool, it's Mikel Merino. So against Port Vale, I fully expect him to play right 8. And I think that has onward consequences for Max Dowman off the right. I think that means Max Dowman will not play off the right, which, some people might be a bit annoyed about, but I think playing an 18-year-old in right 8 and a 15-year-old on the right wing, that would be, I hasten to say, easy for Port Vale to deal with, but I think they would set up in a way that they're going to go, we're going to lock down that side and just kick people off the park. Maybe that's a bit reductionist and a bit disrespectful to the League One side, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is these are fully grown men at Port Vale, and they would look at two teenagers and potentially think they could be physical and deal with them in a certain way. So I think they would probably like to have a more senior player out on the right wing if they're going to play Nwaneri in right 8, and vice versa if they were going to play Max Dowman. And then at left 8, I think Mikel Merino will come in. He will be the kind of most senior voice, I guess, in that midfield. Norgard, of course, is senior, but Mikel Merino's been here for a year and a bit now. He has that kind of presence in the dressing room, clearly a favourite of Mikel Arteta, and I think his job will be to conduct the game. It will be to keep everyone pressing in the right spots and at the right times. It will be to run the midfield. It will be to, do the Declan Rice role and a bit of the Martin Ødegaard role all in one, and he'll be his sort of I think he's kind of captain on the pitch. Whether he actually wears the armband, I'm not so sure. That will be an interesting decision. But Mikel Merino, I can totally see playing this game as someone who can really marshal the team and do those roles that Rice and Ødegaard do. In the hope, of course, that Martin Ødegaard is fit enough to start in the Newcastle game. That's kind of what I'm hedging my bets on here, that Ødegaard will return for Newcastle. His shoulder injury will be resolved based on the timelines that he had before this injury, which means Mikel Merino won't be needed to play in midfield in that game. So that's obviously what I'm hedging my bets on there. Up front, I think it's really, really important that we get a rest for one Victor Gyokeres. I think that actually might be the most important thing, because bless him, he has played a lot of football with Kai Havertz being out. He has been the only guy up front and has played a lot of minutes already. And I don't know if I think it's really like helping his sharpness at all. I'm not 100% certain, but I think we will see Gyokeres get rested, and in my opinion, there is a clear way that this is going to go. I think Trossard will come in up front in the way that he did against Athletic Club to play in Victor Gyokeres' place. I think Gabriel Martinelli will get the minutes off the left wing and hopefully continue off the right wing and hopefully continue his scoring form. And I think Eberechi Eze will play on the left wing because he hasn't had a ton of minutes so far. I think he'll be fresh enough to play. So I know what people will be thinking, Gabriel Martinelli off the right wing, but I'm sure that him and Eze will switch around. He might even switch in and out with Trossard. And actually, what I'm saying by putting Gabriel Martinelli out there is I just don't think Max Dowman and Ethan Nwaneri on that side, potentially with a slightly unfit Ben White behind them, is the right combination. I think that is a little bit too young, as it were. So my lineup would be Kepa in goal, Ben White at right back, Mosquera and Hincapie, hopefully, if he's fit, at centre back. Miles Lewis-Skelly comes back in at left back. An incredibly strong back five, by the way. No, Josh Nichols or Aidan Heaven in there. That's an incredibly strong back five. Christian Norgard, Ethan Nwaneri and Mikel Merino in the middle, with Eze, Trossard and Martinelli up front. incredibly strong. I think, you look at Eze and you probably think, well, why is he in the team? I just don't think you should be playing Dalman and Wanyeri at the same time in a game where we're not sure how physical they're going to be. So, let's get these players out there who, like Trossard, like Martinelli, like Eze, who need some minutes, I think, to get up to full sharpness, and, have probably not done all the minutes that they can do yet. So, let's take advantage of the fact that they've had some rest, etc., etc. And I think if the likes of Kai Havertz, Gabriel Jesus, Madueke was fit, maybe we'd pick some different players in there. But for me, the front line is get some quality players on there who need some minutes, who need to get fit, get the game won, and then get Dalman on, get Dalman on, and let him have a good go at them. Of course, that lineup is contingent on a lot of those players still being fit. I think the big doubt is Hincapie, maybe White as well, whether he's fit enough to start. And we might see some shuffling if those players are not fit enough. But for me, that's the way I would go. I'd be really, really disappointed, I think, if we saw any of Victor Gyokeres, Declan Rice, Saliba perhaps as well from the start. I don't think we need those players to play from the start. I think we've got a big squad. We need to start using them. I know Norgard, I know Hincapie, I know White, they might not be fit yet. I know we've got Havertz and Jesus out up front, and Madueke potentially as well. So I know there's problems, but I think it's really important. Players like Rice, Gyokeres, Saliba, even Gabriel to an extent, are sat down, not playing this game. And I don't mind if they come on for 30 minutes here or there just to keep their sharpness up. That is, of course, a call that you can't make when you're a fan and you don't have all the data of what players need. You can't understand those minutiae substitute details. But for me, I think it would be really important, especially for Gyokeres. Get him sat down, get him a rest, and let's see if a bit of time off in the week can help us pick up our attacking capabilities against Newcastle, score some goals, get a win, and kind of lift the mood around the place. I think that's really, really important. Okay, guys, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for listening to this one. It's obviously a bit of a preview podcast about the League Cup and about the Port Vale selection. I'm looking forward to the game. It feels like an opportunity to kind of watch a game of football that is a little bit less pressured. Like I said, I really, really hope that we do this quite comfortably. We should be good enough to do this quite comfortably, with all due respect to Port Vale. Let's get it done. Let's enjoy the evening and move on from the game and look ahead to the Newcastle match at the weekend, which, like I said in the middle, there will be a preview podcast, an instant reaction, and a match review podcast for that. So keep an eye out for that. And make sure you follow so that you don't miss any of those episodes. All that's left to say is thank you for following, thank you for listening, and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.